knew I was in trouble the moment my boss, Mark, appeared next to my desk holding the thick, dusty employee handbook like it was holy scripture. He dropped it in front of me with a thud that made the entire office look up. "From now on," he said, "I expect you to follow every rule in here. No exceptions." It was such a dramatic moment that my first thought was, did I accidentally burn down the building? But no, my actual crime was far more sinister. I'd submitted a report using the wrong template, one that he himself had approved 2 months earlier. Mark was the kind of boss who mistook control for competence. He had a rule for everything: desk placement, pen color, how long we were allowed to microwave lunches, maximum 45 seconds because the smell lingers. And for months I tried to be patient, but the handbook stunt, that was the final straw. I smiled at him. "Every rule?" He nodded. "Every single one." That's when I knew he'd made a massive mistake. The next morning, I arrived precisely at 9 a.m., not 8:58 like usual, because the handbook clearly stated employees were not permitted to begin work before their scheduled shift. When he asked why I wasn't at my desk early like I normally was, I simply tapped the handbook. Page 7, section 2. Starting early is prohibited. He looked confused, but let it slide. At lunch, I set a timer for exactly 60 minutes, per the rules. When Mark asked me to quickly look over something, I shook my head. "I'm off the clock. Happy to help at 1 p.m. sharp." By the second day, I could feel the tension brewing, tiny inconveniences stacked up like bricks. The handbook said we had 2 15-minute breaks, so I took both. It said employees were not allowed to answer emails after hours, so I didn't. It required all client calls to be documented on a specific form, so I used a form, even though it took 3 times longer. Then came the turning point. The handbook stated that if we noticed any safety concerns, we were required to report them immediately and cease all work until a supervisor resolved the issue. I found an electrical outlet near the copier that looked a little loose, so I reported it and shut down the copier, and the printer next to it, and the entire row of desks that shared that outlet circuit. Mark stormed over. "Why is half the office offline?" I handed him the form. "Safety concern, sir. Page 42. Work must stop until you resolve it." He looked like he'd swallowed a stapler. By day 4, everyone knew what I was doing, but instead of being annoyed, my coworkers quietly started rooting for me, because they too lived under Mark's micromanaging reign, and seeing him trapped by the very rules he worshipped, it was glorious. The final blow came during a meeting with a major client. Mark had scheduled it for 8:45 a.m., 15 minutes before my official shift. I walked in at exactly 9 a.m. The client looked confused. Mark looked furious. "Why are you late?" I slid into my chair, cool as ice. "I'm not. Page 7, section 2. I cannot begin work before my shift." The client raised an eyebrow. "You expect your staff to work unpaid?" Mark stammered, panicked. No, of course not. This is just a misunderstanding." I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The client's expression said everything. The next morning, HR called me in. My stomach twisted. I thought I was getting written up. Instead, they asked me to explain what had been going on. So I did. All of it. Every rule, every micromanagement incident, every time Mark contradicted himself, every absurd demand. HR listened with growing alarm, and when I finished, the HR manager sighed and said, "Thank you. We'll take it from here." 2 weeks later, Mark's desk was empty.